Hey everybody, welcome back to Brent's Backyard Redneckery. So this year I bought a bunch of apples as usual from my favorite orchard in Bowling Green, Jackson's Orchard. I used about half of the bag to make my apple butter for the year, which is absolutely amazing. I suggest you try it. But I still have half a bag left, so what am I going to do with it? Could I make more apple pie filling? Probably. Do I already have enough apple pie filling? Definitely. So I think I'm going to do a little bit of experimentation today and make some hot sauce with my apples. Not all my apples, I'm going to use about a pound. And then I've got some leftover peppers from the garden as well. Going to toss in a few grapes, see how this turns out. So I don't know, but get ready. I'll tell you what we're going to do. Let's get into it. So here's where we're going to start. I've got a pound of Arkansas Black that I'm going to use. I've got some Calugarizza, some chipotles, and some jalapenos. Got a pound of that. I've also got a pound of black grapes. I'm going to see what kind of recipe I can come up with and see if we can't make a good hot sauce. I'm going to try and cook my apples like I would my regular apple butter. So I'll cook them all, get them mashed up, run them through a sieve to get out all the seeds and all the cores and all that good stuff. And then I'll start combining the other stuff with it, and we'll see how that turns out. So the first thing we're going to do here, we're going to core all of our apples. We're not going to throw out the cores yet, though. I'm just going to take each one of these, split it up like so. We're going to toss them in, pot over here, and then we'll add our water and vinegar and cider to this. So I'll go ahead and get these apples done, and I'll show you what we'll do with the grapes and the peppers. All right, so for our grapes, all I'm going to do with these is just cut each of them in half. I'm going to split them all up just like that. I'm going to toss them in along with the apples, and we'll cook these down whenever we cook down the apples. So none of these are really super hot peppers, but I still want to wear gloves, because they can still burn in sensitive places, even with just a little bit of capsaicin. So I'm going to chop each of my peppers up like so. I'm going to take the seeds out of and the membrane there out of the middle, because I don't want to cook my seeds in the hot sauce for this stuff. So I want it to be almost like an apple butter, only a hot apple butter. Okay, so what we're going to add into this, we're going to put in 1 cup of cider, 1 cup of water, and 1 cup of distilled white vinegar. Now that we have all that added in there, I'm going to just mix it up a little bit. And we're going to put this on a medium-low heat and let this cook down until everything gets nice and mushy. Then we're going to chop it up with my meat chopper here. So medium-high heat, I'm looking at about a 3 on my electric stove. I'm just going to let this cook down, and we'll take a look once it gets there. Just a quick note here, that was actually 2 pounds of apples, not 1 pound. The other 2 things were 1 pound, but the apples were 2. All right, so this has been going now for about 25-30 minutes. So I'm going to start breaking it down so it can break down even further down inside that cider and vinegar mix. And then I'll let it sit here and simmer for probably another 30 minutes so these apples can get just a little bit more soft. Then I'm going to pop it in the food processor and turn it into puree. All right, so we've gone another 30 minutes, and this is what we're looking at. Got a pretty good mixture here. It's nice and blended down. Got a nice purple color to it. I think that's probably from the color of the grapes. I'm just going to take all this, and we're going to scoop it into our food processor. First, what I'm going to do here is not put in much of the juice, because I want to blend up the ingredients first. I'm going to do just a little bit at a time. Turn off that heat so I don't boil that over. And see how this turns out. And once I get this blended up in there a little bit better, I'll add in the juice and mix it all together that way. I added some of the liquid to part of this. Now I've got to mix all that in with this pile, and I'm going to do it a little bit at a time until I have it as smooth as I want it. I'm going to let it cool down before I push it through my sieve, just a little bit, but I'm going to add it to this and blend it in my smaller food processor. So we've got quite a bit of chunks in here. So I'm going to just do a couple cups at a time. So that's what we're looking at after it's been through there versus in here. So I'm going to finish all that up and then we'll go from there with our strainer and see how it's looking. Since I'm trying to go for an almost apple butter, I'm going to add in some of the similar apple butter spices. Here we've got a half a teaspoon of cloves. We're going to put in a half a teaspoon of allspice. And we're going to put in 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. As for our sugar, I don't want this to be as sweet as our apple butter usually is, so I'm going to start with a half a cup of white sugar. And I'm going to go with a 1/4 cup of turbinado sugar. And we're going to mix that in. I'm going to put this on a low heat to simmer down. We'll give it a taste test and see if I need to add anything else. So without adding anything else to this, let's just see how it's going to taste. The heat's a nice slow burn. I like that. I think it's definitely going to be sweet enough and the spices are just about right. So I'm just going to let this cook down and then we'll push it through a sieve. And what we're looking for here is to get rid of all the nasty funk, like the apple peel, the core, all that jazz, just to push it through here and be left with whatever's coming out the bottom. So that's going to be our end product. And then once we have that product, we'll cook it down till it's a good consistency to be a hot sauce. So we may have to cook it down for quite a bit of time in order to have a good consistency. Like I said, never done this before. So we're going to find out how it turns out. So these are our remnants after pushing it through the sieve. Looking at a pretty good consistency, almost apple butter. Not quite, and it's almost a hot sauce as well. So I'm going to let this simmer for just a little while so I can thicken that up just a wee bit, but not a lot. So I'm going to put it on a low heat for probably 15 minutes and check it. Okay, we let this go for an extra 15 minutes here. So let's just take a look and see how the sauce has turned out. I think I've got the perfect consistency that I'm wanting in this sauce. It's thin enough to pour, but it's thick enough that it'll give you a little bit of depth, I guess you could say. So that right there is exactly what I'm looking for. So I'll go ahead and bottle all these up and we'll call it a day. All right, that wraps up yet another episode of Brent's Backyard Redneckery. I hope you guys learned something today about how to combine a hot sauce with an apple butter, turn it into something pretty amazing. If you did enjoy the video, make sure you give me a thumbs up, share it with your friends, come back next time. I'll tell you what you need to do. Y'all have a good one.